1. Ancient Israelite religion and Second Temple Judaism. The religion practiced by the ancient Israelites began as a local tradition among the peoples of Canaan. Archaeological and linguistic evidence suggests that early Israelites shared cultural and religious traits with neighboring groups, including the worship of multiple deities. Over centuries, this faith developed into ethical monotheism, belief in one God who demands justice, morality, and covenantal obedience. After the Babylonian conquest of Judah in 586 BCE, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, and many Judeans were exiled. During exile, the community preserved its identity through scripture and ritual rather than sacrifice. When the Persians conquered Babylon and allowed the exiles to return, the Second Temple was rebuilt around 515 BCE. From then until its destruction by Rome in 70 CE, Jewish life revolved around that temple and the interpretation of the Torah. During this Second Temple period, several sects emerged with competing ideas of law and leadership. The Pharisees believed that the written Torah required continuous interpretation through an oral Torah, a living body of law that evolved through debate. They emphasized personal observance, study, and synagogue worship. The Sadducees, often priests and aristocrats, rejected oral traditions and followed only the written Torah. Their authority was tied to the temple itself. The Essenes withdrew into communal settlements like Qumran, practiced ritual purity, and anticipated divine intervention in history. The Zealots viewed resistance to Roman occupation as a religious duty, seeing armed rebellion as sanctified. A fifth group, the early Christians, began as a Jewish sect before developing into a distinct religion that spread primarily among non-Jews. When the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in 70 CE, the priestly Sadducees lost their foundation, the Zealots were defeated, and the Essenes vanished. Only the Pharisaic approach, portable, text-based, and centered on study, survived. That tradition became Rabbinic Judaism. 2. The formation of Rabbinic Judaism. After the temple's fall, Jewish scholars known as Tanim gathered in Yavne to preserve the Torah through interpretation rather than sacrifice. They codified these oral traditions into the Mishnah, finalized around 200 CE under Rabbi Judah the Prince. The Mishnah presented law not as commandments listed in sequence, but as case law with arguments and alternatives. Later generations of scholars in Babylonia and the land of Israel produced the Gemara, an extensive commentary on the Mishnah. Together, they form the Talmud. Two versions exist, the shorter Jerusalem Talmud and the more authoritative Babylonian Talmud. Unlike a fixed law book, the Talmud preserves disagreements between sages, reflecting a belief that divine truth can emerge through reasoned debate. This model, study, argument, and interpretation, became the foundation of all later Judaism. Worship shifted to the synagogue, leadership to the rabbi, and sacrifice was replaced by prayer, charity, and study. The central concept was halakha, meaning the path, the full body of Jewish law guiding ritual, ethics, and daily conduct. Rabbinic Judaism spread across the Middle East and Europe. Even without a temple or state, its legal and educational structures allowed the Jewish people to remain united through text and practice. 3. Independent and peripheral communities. While Rabbinic Judaism became dominant, several other groups developed separately. The Karaites, emerging in the 8th to 9th centuries CE, rejected the oral Torah and relied solely on the Hebrew Bible. They interpreted scripture literally, maintained their own calendar, and often lived apart from Rabbinic Jews. Although small, Karaite communities still exist today in Israel, Lithuania, and the United States. Beta Israel, the Jewish community of Ethiopia, maintained ancient customs centered on biblical law and priestly purity, but lacked Talmudic tradition. Scholars debate whether their origins trace to Second Temple times or later contact through Arabia. In modern Israel, Beta Israel have been officially recognized as Jews, and most now live there after large-scale immigration in the late 20th century. The Samaritans preserve a distinct Israelite faith that accepts only the Torah and venerates Mount Gerizim, not Jerusalem, as God's chosen site. Once numbering hundreds of thousands, only about 850 Samaritans remain today, living near Nablus and in Holon, Israel. These groups illustrate how diverse early Jewish identity could be, yet all share roots in the same ancient tradition. 4. Sephardi, Ashkenazi, and Mizrahi traditions. Following Roman rule and later dispersions, Jews spread throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. Regional environments produced unique cultural and legal variations variations known as minhagim, customs. Sephardi Jews trace their heritage to Spain and Portugal. Under Muslim rule, Jewish philosophy and poetry flourished. Figures such as Maimonides and Judah Halevi shaped global Jewish thought. After the 1492 expulsion, Sephardim resettled in North Africa, the Ottoman Empire, and southern Europe. They followed the Shulchan Aruch, compiled by Rabbi Joseph Caro in 1565, which became the definitive code of Jewish law for Sephardim. Ashkenazi Jews developed in Central and Eastern Europe, particularly Germany and Poland. Their scholars, like Rashi and later the Tosafists, produced vast commentaries on the Talmud. Rabbi Moses Isserles added notes to Caro's Shulchan Aruch to account for Ashkenazi custom, ensuring one unified code respected both traditions. Ashkenazi Jews created a unique Yiddish language, distinctive liturgical melodies, and strong rabbinic academies in Lithuania and Poland. Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia preserved traditions from ancient Babylonian centers of learning. Communities in Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and Iran developed independent legal responsa and prayer styles. After 1492, many exiled Sephardim joined these communities, blending customs so that today, Sephardi often includes both Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews. These categories, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, and Mizrahi, represent geography and culture, not denomination. Their theology and law are shared, differing only in interpretation, pronunciation, and local custom. 5. Hasidism and the Mitnagdim. In the 18th century, a spiritual revival transformed Eastern European Jewry. Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, known as the Baal Shem Tov, founded Hasidism in what is now Ukraine. It emphasized heartfelt devotion, joy in worship, and the presence of God in daily life. Hasidism drew deeply from Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition systematized by Isaac Luria in the 16th century Safed. Each Hasidic community gathered around a Rebbe believed to possess extraordinary spiritual insight. These courts became dynasties, often named for their towns: Lubavitch, Satmar, Ger, Belz, Bobov, Vizhnitz, and many others. Hasidic life centered on prayer, song, storytelling, and personal connection to the Rebbe as a spiritual intermediary. Opposing them were the Mitnagdim, literally opponents. Led by scholars like the Vilna Gaon in Lithuania, they rejected the emotionalism of Hasidism and upheld rigorous Talmudic study as the highest form of worship. Over time, their intellectual approach created the modern yeshiva system. Though originally at odds, both Hasidic and Lithuanian traditions became integral to Haredi, or ultra-Orthodox Judaism, in the modern era. If you're finding this breakdown helpful so far, take a second to subscribe. It helps more people discover in-depth explainers like this one. 6. The Haskalah and the birth of modern denominations. The late 18th and 19th centuries brought the Haskalah, or Jewish Enlightenment, inspired by European rationalism. Thinkers like Moses Mendelssohn encouraged secular education, science, and integration into non-Jewish society. As European states granted Jews civil rights, the question arose: how could Jews remain faithful to tradition while joining modern life? In Germany, progressive rabbis began adapting worship and belief to reflect this new reality. They introduced vernacular prayers, shortened services, mixed seating, and sermons focused on ethics rather than ritual. This became Reform Judaism, which viewed halakha not as binding law, but as evolving moral guidance. It stressed the prophetic values of justice and ethical monotheism, summarized in the phrase tikkun olam, repairing the world. Traditionalists resisted. Led by figures such as Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, Orthodox Judaism insisted that the Torah and its commandments were divinely given and eternally binding. However, Hirsch's Torah im Derek Eretz philosophy encouraged engagement with modern culture while maintaining strict observance, laying the foundation for modern orthodoxy. Between these poles, conservative Judaism emerged, known outside North America as Masorti Judaism. Its founders, centered around the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, viewed halakha as binding but adaptable. Rabbinic authorities could reinterpret laws in response to social change. Examples include allowing limited travel to synagogue on the Sabbath, ordaining women rabbis, and supporting egalitarian worship while maintaining traditional rituals. rituals. By the mid-20th century, two additional movements appeared. Reconstructionist Judaism, founded by Mordecai Kaplan, defined Judaism as a civilization encompassing faith, culture, and history, rather than solely religion. It preserves many traditional forms, but interprets them through a human-centered lens. Renewal Judaism, arising in the 1960s and 70s, blended progressive values with Hasidic spirituality, meditation, and music, appealing to those seeking experiential worship rather than doctrine. Together, these developments produced the denominational landscape recognized today. 7. Orthodox diversity, Haredi, and modern streams. Within Orthodoxy itself, distinctions sharp. Haredi Judaism, from the Hebrew root meaning to tremble before God, includes both Hasidic and Lithuanian traditions. It emphasizes separation from secular society, strict modesty, and dedication to Torah study. Many Haredim live in tightly knit communities, speak Yiddish, and limit exposure to modern media. Some are non-Zionist or anti-Zionist, believing that a Jewish state should await divine redemption. Modern Orthodox Judaism maintains full observance of Haskalah while engaging with the secular world. Adherents attend universities, serve in the military, and often support the State of Israel. Institutions like Yeshiva University in New York embody this synthesis of Torah study and general education. A distinct Israeli branch, religious Zionism or Dati Leumi, combines Orthodox practice with Zionist ideology, seeing the establishment of Israel as part of divine providence. Its stricter subset, Haredi, merges religious Zionism with Haredi-style stringency. 8. Jewish denominations in the United States. Large-scale Jewish migration reshaped global Judaism. Between 1840 and 1925, successive waves of German and Eastern European Jews brought their traditions to North America. Early German immigrants introduced Reform Judaism, founding Hebrew Union College in 1875 and the Union of American Hebrew Congregations in 1873. Those seeking balance established conservative Judaism through the Jewish Theological Seminary in 1886, and later the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism in 1913. Eastern European immigrants, far more traditional, organized Orthodox institutions, such as the Orthodox Union in 1898, which also created the OU kosher certification mark found worldwide. The Agudath Israel movement, founded in Europe and later based in New York, represented the Haredi world, both Hasidic and non-Hasidic, while Chabad Lubavitch, originally a Hasidic dynasty, became a global outreach organization promoting Jewish education and observance. Demographically, about half of synagogue-affiliated American Jews identify as Reform, roughly 1/3 as conservative, and around 1/5 as Orthodox. Reconstructionist and renewal congregations make up smaller but growing numbers. 9. Global structures and regional contexts. Outside the United States, denominational labels vary. In the United Kingdom, two major reform bodies, Liberal Judaism and the Movement for Reform Judaism, announced a merger in 2023. The country maintains a chief rabbi representing Orthodox synagogues under the United Synagogue framework. In France, Argentina, and South Africa, centralized rabbinates oversee religious affairs, usually under Orthodox authority. In Israel, denominational categories matter less. Instead, Jews are described sociologically as Hiloni, secular, non-observant but culturally Jewish, roughly half of Israel's Jewish population. Masorti, traditional, partly observant, maintaining core customs. Dade, religious, fully observant within Orthodox law. Haredi, ultra-Orthodox, most stringent and insular. All official Jewish religious matters in Israel, marriage, conversion, burial, fall under the jurisdiction of two chief rabbis, one Ashkenazi and one Sephardi. 10. Humanistic and cultural Judaism. In the mid-20th century, a secular movement known as Humanistic Judaism arose under Rabbi Sherwin Wine in Michigan. It defines Judaism as the shared cultural and ethical heritage of the Jewish people, not a theistic religion. Congregations celebrate holidays, conduct life cycle events, and teach Jewish history while omitting reference to divine authority. Humanistic Judaism provides a spiritual home for secular Jews who identify strongly with Jewish ethics and culture, but not with traditional belief. Alongside it, Jewish renewal and Reconstructionist communities emphasize creativity, inclusivity, and modern ethical issues, gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, and environmental stewardship, while drawing inspiration from ancient texts and Hasidic mysticism. 11. Core distinctions in belief and practice. All Jewish movements derive from the same foundational texts, but differ in how they interpret halakha and revelation. Orthodox Judaism sees the Torah and Talmud as divine and immutable. Its goal is strict observance of commandments through study and community enforcement. Conservative Judaism upholds law as binding, yet evolving through legal precedent and communal needs. Reform Judaism treats law as a guide to ethical behavior, with individual conscience determining practice. Reconstructionist and Humanistic Judaism view Jewish identity as cultural and ethical rather than divine. Despite differing methods, all share the Shema's central declaration, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one," as a unifying affirmation of identity. Each movement represents a distinct answer to how Jews preserve faith, ethics, and belonging in changing times. If you'd like to explore how these movements shaped modern Israel and the global Jewish community, watch the follow-up video linked here. And don't forget to subscribe for more detailed explainers.